on a hot topic, on a good topic. We're going to talk about Masonry, the community, and in particular, Prince Hall Masonry. This journey that we're going to go over the next couple of episodes, we're just going to talk about what Prince Hall Masonry is and what it is to us and how it has influenced and changed our lives and impacted our lives and our community. So looking really forward to getting into the details of that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Prince Hall Masonry is it's one of those subjects that really resonates deeply just because of the tradition, the rich tradition, particularly in the United States. Although we know that Masonry did not or originate in the United States, it migrated to the United States. But before we get into all those specific details, we just want to take a moment to share with the listeners of what we brought us in the Freemasonry as individuals. I think as always, it's interesting to hear personal stories. Brother Trey, what drew you to the craft?
Yeah, so crazy journey, something that was unexpected for sure. I joined a late bloomer, as they say, and then also I don't come from a lineage of Masons, although I've found out recently that I do have family members who are Masons and have, gone through their own journey and a part of different houses and whatnot. But one of the main things that drew me to Masonry is just seeking and exploring philosophy, exploring what truth is, or not necessarily what truth is, but different truths of different people. And ultimately, well, in addition to the community, particularly what drew me to Prince Hall Masonry is that, it's mainly an African American driven organization, and we do a lot of things in the community. So those are the main things that drew me to Masonry. So I'm curious to hear what drew you to Masonry there, Raul. I really am.
No, that's super dope. Your lineage, I think when we trace our lineage back, we find out things. My journey was a little different in that I kind of was a late bloomer myself. Later, I found out that my grandfather was a Mason, but I didn't know that growing up.
Yeah.
But I was stationed in Japan.
Oh.
Now, while stationed in Japan, some brothers approached me, and I was already a chief at the time, so brothers approached me, and I seen all these brothers with the square and the compass, and I hadn't really paid too much attention to masonry, to be honest with you, before '06. It just once it got started from there. It was I think on my line was called Trinity, and it was 10
Yeah.
of us on our line.
That sounds familiar. We missed you by one. We missed you by one on my line. But you know what's crazy about that is that, when I really think about, masonry and it always seems to kind of be like some people look for it, and some people it just finds them, right? And it's unique to hear those different perspectives and that different journey that people take. And then you said something real interesting there, which was another piece that kind of drew me towards masonry is that it transcends borders, right? Doesn't matter if you're in Japan, it doesn't matter if you're in England, Germany, Philippines, it doesn't matter. And we're definitely going to get into that and unpack that because I've in my short time I've been able to do a little bit of traveling, and man, I got some good insight to share with everyone, or with anyone who's interested to hear a little bit of my perspective when we're talking about Prince Hall Masonry and what we'll call quote unquote mainstream masonry and those differences. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's super dope, man. Interesting for sure. It's just funny how we both came into the same Masonic order, but we came through two distinctly different paths, right?
Yeah.
And then just like you said, something profound that sometimes you don't find masonry, masonry finds you. And it was, again, going to Japan. I was going to Japan to get promoted in the Navy. I had no intention to be in any fraternity whatsoever. At a certain point, I did want to be in the Greek fraternity, which also happened later. But yeah, it was just an interesting, the way that happened, man. And but when I think about masonry as a whole, just a lot of beautiful things in masonry. But I think we, as Freemasons, especially Prince Hall Masons, I think we misuse the tools.
Oh.
I do. I think we misuse the tools. So we're gonna unpack a lot. With regards to working tools and some other dialogue, with regards to Freemasonry. It's interesting, man. I like this as the first episode again. But before I go any further, man, I kick back to you. We want to have the members. Hey, if you guys, we welcome you. We welcome everybody to get the insider perspective on masonry from Trey and myself. But first, we would like you to like and subscribe to the channel, just so we can make this thing go international. Like we said a little while ago, masonry does transcend all borders. but we got to get it there first in a fast way and get it to as many people as possible. So I'll punt it to you,
Yeah.
Trey, as far as
Okay.
your perspective.
Well, let's talk about Prince Hall. Let's talk about Prince Hall and which is going to lead us to Prince Hall. What do you know about Prince Hall?
You know, the basic history, right? Where he came from. And what's interesting about Prince Hall is the Boston Tea Party had nothing to do
Yeah.
with what was slated in the history books. It was about the charter. It was
Yeah.
about preventing the charter from coming over to the United States. So again, it's funny that I took a history class in '08 through, I can't remember which community college, but they had Prince Hall in there. And it's funny, actually '07. This is
Yeah.
before I became a Mason. So it's funny to have Prince Hall in the actual history book. But it talks about, taxation without representation and then the Boston Tea Party, but it had nothing to do with what society has given it, right? It was about
Yeah.
preventing the charter from getting into the United States. So
Yeah.
that was my journey, really figuring out who Prince Hall was and how he pioneered masonry, being a free man in those times, to be able to own property, to be able to vote. I mean, there was a lot of things
Yeah.
that he did that was so progressive,
Yeah.
and this is the 1700s. So
Yeah.
it was crazy, man.
One of the things that I'll say about Prince Hall is, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story, right? Because I was
Okay.
blessed and fortunate enough to actually make my way over to Boston and to become a member of the Masonic Lodge of 459.
Mm,
And I'm gonna tell you about that. But so Boston, 1775, right? What I what was the climate like in my mind, right? As I read the history books, it was a time the Revolutionary War was happening during that period. There were men of color who were serving in the Revolutionary War, and in particular, there was Prince Hall and 14 other 14 that almost call them Marines,
yeah.
14 other individuals, right, who were made Masons in a British Masonic lodge known as Lodge, not Lodge 451, but in the Irish registry, they were known as Lodge 441. Excuse me. So that initiation took place at Fort Independence there, which I was able to actually be there and walk through that particular fort. And something that really kind of resonated with me there. It all kind of came together for me on that trip to Boston to view this. Is that the life of a black man, a black individual at that particular juncture, and the courage that it took for Prince Hall to lead these 14 other men to become Masons, because we got to understand, it wasn't something at that particular time that was accepted, right? There's still racial divides. Obviously, slavery was soon to follow, but Boston at that time was a free state for African Americans. One thing I know I learned, and I don't think a lot of people know this, right, is that General Washington had 5,000 black soldiers who actually served in his army, right? And they served as cooks, did a lot of administrative things. They didn't fight at that particular time, but we're going to get into, Martin D. Delaney, the Militant Masons and all that. We'll unpack that a little bit later on down the line.
Mm.
But I don't think people really know, and especially Prince Hall Masons know how important Boston and the environment was to serve as the stepping off point for masonry and for creating a structure for black industry, right? Because when you're serving when the 5,000 were serving in the army there, they were getting paid, right? Where were they spending their money, right? Black businesses. That was the mecca, the initial mecca for black businesses. But yeah, it's a phenomenal story, and I definitely think that more Prince Hall Masons need to understand where we came from, where this craft began, and then how we nest into the bigger picture, because they didn't want us there. Hey, but we're here now and we are growing. And I know we're going to unpack in a couple episodes down the line the interaction with Prince Hall Mason, or the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of California, and the California Masons as well, and how that relationship has started to grow and develop and become something special.
Yeah, no, it's I mean that's all correct. And then even to go one step further as far as after their initiation, they can only bury their dead. They got permission
Yeah.
to only bury they couldn't confer degrees.
Yeah.
So as we think about where we're at today, where the British laws came from, and those brothers, those 14 brothers, because Prince Hall Day is Sunday here. At least we're going to celebrate it Sunday. It's actually on the 12th.
Hmm.
We should really be thankful that we can make Masons and not just
Yeah.
bury our dead. So there's privilege, right? And you alluded to the 5,000. For those 5,000 brothers,
Yeah.
men to be getting paid was huge, right?
Yeah.
And it was super huge. And there's a narrative about George Washington that he was racist and he was this and he was that. But as a racist white man, he wouldn't pay slaves to, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so again, that changes the narrative. It was almost a revelation hearing that, and as I think about that, and even Abe Lincoln. Just got done
Yeah.
reading Lincoln on Leadership, and it gave me different perspectives. So I think we as brothers need to unpack different things to dispel some narratives.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And hey, you know what? Hey, is it by happenstance that Washington was a Mason by
Yeah,
chance? You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
yeah,
So,
absolutely,
and we
absolutely.
we talk about the progressiveness of the craft. You look through the history of great leaders, and Masons are sprinkled throughout the history. So it's hard to discredit, or it's hard to not correlate that Masonry has influenced social constructs, social progressiveness. It's not too far off to think that. And I think that as we explore the principles of what Masonry is, and what we do, I think people will get to see that, right? And to your point, this is why we started the podcast, right? Is to,
Absolutely.
one, bring together knowledge, bring together, correlate or connect the dots for those brothers who are less informed right now, or maybe
Mhm.
even ill-informed to a degree. Because even as we look at the history of what we know, the known knowns of Prince Hall Masonry, there are still some things and some facts, quote unquote, that can be confuted, right? But the principle of what happened, still there's truth to it. And
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to exploring it, right? I really am.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm absolutely excited about it. I'm excited about our first guest because he's a younger guy. As you
Yeah.
know, you've worked with him. He's going to give a different perspective.
Yeah.
He has a Hebrew background, which also lends a religious perspective, albeit not entwined with or intertwined with masonry, so to speak. But again, we're looking forward to that and
Yeah.
unpacking all of those interesting storylines, right? Because I know between you and I, we'll do a lot of deep philosophical research to come back to bring the listeners some rich perspective.
Yeah.
I was kind of going through YouTube and looking at all the different Masonic podcasts, especially Prince Hall. I know Damien Jack switched over to another type of podcast, which is it's cool, it's dope. But I just think we provide a different perspective.
Yeah. And
I do. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I think that the Trestle Board Talk, right? We are positioned to really not only dive deep into the rituals, the philosophical, or the allegories, and unpacking all that. But
Mhm.
our one of our co-hosts, right? He works for the main side as well, and he gets to bring a completely different dynamic. And I think the beauty of this thing that we call masonry is that people come from all different backgrounds, they come from all different walks of life, and bring a refreshing perspective that opens your mind to think about things differently. And ultimately, I think that's what masonry challenges us to do, right? Just to think about things differently, whether that be, how we employ those working tools, how we interact with one another, how we interpret and read the Bible. It forces you to study, right? It forces you to get into the weeds, into the depth and breadth, and understand the biblical writings that you're reading and what these things mean. Because every time you read something, you learn something different, every single time. And I love that, right? Lifelong learners. That's what I think Masons are. They're lifelong learners.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that I had a talk today with a past current lecturer,
Yeah.
Right Worship Willie D. Humphreys, and we had a long conversation. And he was saying somewhat on those lines, right? That brothers have stopped studying in masonry, right? And
Mm,
they've gotten to the point where they've saying things like, "Well, this is a volunteer organization.
yeah.
I don't have to do this and do that." But then my retort, me personally, is, "Well, you volunteered."
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like
mm,
it's
mm,
not like the military press hard 6 copies, right? It's not like there was
yeah.
some coercion there. You volunteered. So
Yeah.
again, the response is this. Just like I told Right Worship Humphreys, um, I just think that we took the fun out of masonry.
Yeah.
I do. I think we made it. He told me in 1947. Now get this. In 1947. We're talking damn near 60 years ago, right? Over
Yeah.
70, yeah, maybe 80, almost 80 years. Anyway,
Yeah.
he said there was 10,000 Masons in Southern California, Prince Hall
Oh,
Masonry.
well. Wow.
10,000. In his time, so he's the older cat. In his time in the 60s, there was almost 8,000.
Hmm.
Well, guess what? We're at 2,189 Masons as of today. So you have an attrition rate of almost 80%.
Yeah.
80%.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
The attrition rate
Yeah.
is there's a couple of different things. I think the first is we're requiring brothers to study works that they may not have been taught how to study properly. And
Hmm.
I say that so from an educational perspective, there's different learning styles. Like, we're not taking the time to learn. Some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners. There's different types of learning styles. I just don't think we
Yeah.
take the time, or we care enough to take the time to learn brothers and meet them at their level.
Yeah.
And
Meet them where
so
they're at.
yeah, so we don't meet brothers where they're at. We're just saying study the ritual,
Yeah.
right? Know your work. And what does past master Ed say? Get in the book.
Yeah. 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 No, what work? What work am I supposed to
Yeah.
know? You know what I
Get in the
mean? What
book.
am I supposed to?
Get in the book.
Um, it's crazy because I can relate to that. I think that I'm a I view life a little bit differently and I view things a little bit differently. And I can say, one of the things that I expected as a new Mason was, the light, the truth, right?
Mhm.
Education. And, what I struggle with, and this from us being in lodge together, is that hey, I ask a lot of questions. I like to ask a lot of questions. And what I think is that it's not that guys don't want to, ask the question. To some degree we it's almost shunned, right? Asking a question. Oh, you don't know that? Oh, you don't know this? Oh, what do you mean you don't know that? And that definitely, puts a barrier or wall up between new masons, to especially those when you're walking into a world that's completely unfamiliar, right? You don't This is your first time being a part of something like this, and you're listening to everything that's happening between what the Robert rules, or how do I make a motion, this, that, the other business, and this, that, and the other. And then you get to the education piece, and you're just like, man, I wasn't even prepared for this after a long day's work. I don't even know how to interact. So to your point, though, I think that when you say we've taken the fun out of masonry, is that all right? What was the fun, right? Me as a new guy, I don't know. I don't know what the good old days used to be like. I hear stories about it, so I'm curious. I'm just curious.
So my idea of fun, and again, you got to figure my plight is different, right? I came in
Mhm.
overseas, and overseas, all we had was masonry, and
Yeah,
all we had was each other. We didn't have external distractions like in the States. So much stuff's going on in the States.
yeah,
We didn't have that. So we learned masonry. I learned masonry different because I had my nine other brothers, and
hmm,
we were all connected. Like every weekend, so we were at somebody's house, definitely barbecuing,
yeah,
fellowshipping, talking masonry, playing spades, doing what brothers do, just fellowshipping. Families were there, right? I know my line brother, I keep his kids, he keep my kids, right? We have movie
yeah,
nights, right? But it always came back to talking masonry. Then we were bringing lines through, so that kept us sharp and proficient. So that was my idea of fun.
yeah,
So again, when I say fun, I also came in and I had Right Worship Othello Burton, and he would always stress to us, especially on New York right side, if you're not having fun,
mhm,
you're doing this wrong. And
yeah,
so he would let us have fun. do degree work and walk in suits and all kind of, industrious stuff that it made it
Yeah.
fun. So my idea and interpretation of fun is different in masonry.
Yeah.
So again, I say that, but and I kind of go back to what you're saying and lash back on the comment you just made, and it's true for most brothers. They get shunned,
Hmm.
right? And I want you to think about this. You get shunned when you ask people a question and they say you don't know that. That means that they don't know the answer themselves.
Facts. Facts.
So they get defensive. And so
Hmm.
that's the problem. And so we have, and I hate to say it, but we have
Hmm.
past masters out there that are wearing the apron. But I guarantee you that if you ask them a question about what that apron means or what that emblem means on their apron, they cannot tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They cannot tell you.
So the question now becomes, in our individual lodges, bring the fun back, right? Because I think I understood, or I viewed your experience
Mm.
as a result of circumstances, as a result of isolation to a degree, being cut off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you only have, who you have there. It's
Right.
like, okay, cool. How can I recreate that? And I think I won't say I know, but I think I know what I latch on to, right? And it's that the idea that there are people, like-minded people there who view the world in a similar fashion that I do, and that
Mm.
if I need them, right, on a on a Sunday night before they go to work at 12 o'clock at midnight, I pick up the phone. There, hey, one of my brothers is going to be there. That's what I hold true to, and in my short time, I've experienced that, brothers showing me that love, and it's just been really, I guess I don't even know the words for it. It's been really pleasant to experience, brotherly love, and I don't think a lot of guys even take a moment to recognize what it is that is happening. Right? They don't appreciate it because it's just
Mm.
like I don't even know what this is. So yeah, I just challenge the brothers out there who are at their lodges, right? Like, look to your left and your right and say, can I really call on these brothers? And then if the answer is yes, then hey man, you should be appreciative for that and try to reciprocate that, not only to those brothers who show you that, but to another brother, right? And then another brother.
Mm.
Uh, yeah.
No, I just so here's the thought, right? And again, my perspective is progressive, is different. I was always kind of taught coming up in masonry, if you can't trust a brother to be in your house and around your family when you're not there, then
Hmm.
you damn sure shouldn't be in a lodge with
Hey, preach it.
them. And again, we kind of go back to what you were saying and how you're feeling. You did ask a question, you kind of shied away from it, but damn that. That's what the Trestle Board Talk is. We're going to be raw. We're going to be unapologetic about these conversations because they need to happen. And this is a
Yeah.
platform. Right? And I told you that. This is being recorded, by the way, and I'm gonna put this on as a pilot episode. So, brothers, we need to give you brothers your power back. You ask, how can we make it fun? These past masters and Grand Lodge officers, Right Worship Humphreys made a great point today. He says, you know what, Brother Randall, we play too much politics in masonry, and people are scared to have an
Ooh,
opinion.
ooh, we.
And this is from a past grand lecture. He said people are scared to have an opinion because it's fear of reprisal,
Yeah.
fear of not being elected. But he made an even more profound point. He says the Grand Lodge officers don't elect you, the craft elects you. And I said,
Mm.
huh. It's a thought. And I said, Brother Humphreys, I don't know if you know about me. I said, but I'm gonna be unapologetically me. And truth be told, we do elections every year. I may not get reelected, but that's okay. That's okay. You gave me a 1 year, and you can't take over this platform. So I'm always gonna have a voice bigger than Prince Hall Grand Lodge of California.
Yeah.
So again, it's we got to give brothers their power back. I think it's the main point I'm trying to make. Right? We've taken as senior members in Masonry, we've taken brothers' power base away. Even now, as a grand lecturer, I want all the district deputies that are going to see this, because I'm going to send them a copy of this. I want to empower you and give you your power base back, like the deputy grand master talked about on our call, so
Yeah.
that you have your power base back and we get back to being brotherly. I told the district deputies on our last call, have coffee with your worship master.
Yeah.
Go out with your worship masters, right? It's break bread. I said, the tighter you are outside the lodge, the more synergy you create inside the lodge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we just got to give you guys your power back. And again, that's how we have fun. We don't take the time as brothers to get to know other brothers.
Yeah.
That's on us.
I'm gonna add to that if I may, right? I'm gonna say we don't respect the craft, right?
No.
That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say we don't respect the craft because if we're not doing those things that we know that we're required to do, we're doing it. We don't really care about it. So how many brothers, how many masons, how many masons? Because there's a difference between a mason and a master mason, which we'll unpack that later too. How many master masons really or masons love the craft? Because if you love the craft, you're a master mason, right? And I say that because we have guys who want to wear these aprons, be in these chairs, be in these titles and whatnot. And they won't even take a step back and say, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to lead and leave my legacy within this lodge? Right. And in my short time, I'm not the brightest man in the room by no means, but you can sense genuineness, right? And you know when someone's not really genuine about what it is that they do. And unfortunately, we have a lot of disingenuous individuals who want to chase a title in order to do X, Y, and Z, which is all in the self-interest of themselves. And that's why you got some guys been in lodge, been master masons, 20, 30, 50 years, and they've never sat in the seat, and good on them. And they do work, right? Because they recognize that. And I won't lie. I will not lie. I won't sit on here and lie since we're being unapologetically,
Damn right.
true, is that I thought about that. I thought about, well, why do I want to be in a chair? Why am I looking 3, 4 years down the line of where I want to be to get to that thing when right here, right now, I got a lot of work to do, not only myself, I got a lot of work to do in applying these working tools, learning these working tools, applying the truth and knowledge that we seek every day to myself. And it wasn't until recently I became content with, hey, Trey, it's gonna come when it's gonna come, but you're in your prep time. You're in your prep time right now to make a change, and you need to understand that God's going to put you in a position of leadership. He's going to put you in a position of influence when you're ready, right? And having that self-realization is something that we as leaders inside the lodge need to have, right? So
No, I cannot disagree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you on all of that. But I can tell you this: I'm actually gonna put you in a time machine right now. And our first interaction
yeah,
was a study session,
it was.
and I came on there. You guys didn't know me from a can of paint. There was, you didn't know any credential. You didn't know who I was, right?
Facts.
Just I think Brother Buck is the one that got us linked up like that. And so after that, I'm just curious, as we're in the Wayback Machine right now, what was your thoughts when you got off that call? Because you asked a lot of questions and we went back and forth and we had a lot of
Yeah,
dialogues. What was
yeah.
your thoughts when you got off that call?
First of all, that interaction there, I'm not once again, I'm not gonna lie. That ignited a curiosity. It got me excited for the simple fact that I could have a debate and a discussion on a biblical topic or on a thing that we could have dialogue on. And at
Mhm.
that point, I didn't feel like, well, you don't know, just shut up. It wasn't that by any means. It was like, hey, I'm going to give you some facts here. Look this up, look that up. Think
Mhm.
about this, think about that. And when I got off the phone, I did that because I'm like, I'm a little I guess prideful in the sense of like, I don't like to be wrong, right? And I still had that mentality about me. I was like, nah, man, he couldn't be right. What is he talking about the Pentateuch? Man, what does he really know about this and that and the other? And then, I went back and studied and I looked and I searched and I found, and I was like, man, dude, if you would have never had this interaction with this individual, you would have never even
Sure.
thought to look and ask yourself, do you really even know what you think you know? You may have
Mhm.
grown up in the church, may have grown up listening to the sermon. You may have even read a couple verses here and there, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And that conversation there really sparked it. And as I was looking around and viewing, that situation and my brothers, Like a lot of them had no idea what we were talking about. You could tell we were just going back
It
and
was you
forth.
and I. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
we
just
were
you and
just
I.
going. Yeah, man, these guys don't know this. You don't know the Bible. Why are you here then? What are you doing? What do you think this is? Yada yada yada.
Mhm.
So forth, so on. And I'm like, it got me excited. It got me excited, but it also made me recognize, hey, we're not on the same. We don't have the same experience. We don't have the same approach to life, and we don't have the same approach to how we study the Bible or philosophy, and more so, we don't have the same approach in how we apply that through the way we live our lives. And it was really profound to see that, exciting at the same time to engage in that dialogue, and then from there, behind closed doors, the line bros are like, "Hey man, how'd you know this? How'd you know that? What were you talking about here? What were you talking about there?" So it was really good. It was really good.
Sure. It sparked
Thanks for that. That was a great question.
no, I mean, so, and I kind of did that as a lead in to this point, right? My senior deacon, Mike Wilson, still talk to
Mhm.
him to this day. Matter of fact, I think when I got elevated to the third degree, I called my wife and I called Mike to let him know.
Yeah.
Right. So these people were important to me
Yeah.
in the pinnacle of ministry. But I said that to say this about Mike. And shout out to Mike Wilson, by the way, Grand Inspector General type, past master. He always told us when we were online, he said, meet one, greet one, and teach one. And that was, we're talking 16 years ago,
Yeah.
15, 16 years ago. And to this day, that stuck with me, right? And so as we were interacting, right, it was meet one, greet one, and teach one.
Yeah.
And then what happened is our conversations sparked dialogue
Mhm.
between your brothers, which also sparked interest in them. So
Mhm.
it's to the next point, we don't realize the power we have in masonry and how many generations we can affect just by talking to one person.
Mm.
Because
True.
if you have positive interactions with that one person, they talk to another person, they talk
Yep.
to another person, they
Yep.
talk to another person, and so on and so on and so on. You're talking 7, 8, 9 generations of people getting positive information. And then the reverse is true as well.
Yeah. No, you're right. That you're so true. That is so true on so many different levels. I would say, how might we get brothers to see that truth, right? To see that truth and really understand that truth, the power of words, and
Mhm.
especially in the thing that we do in masonry, there's power in words, and you can recite X, Y, and Z, you could say
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z, but there's a difference between reciting and there's a difference between saying, right, and understanding and
Mhm.
applying those things. And you're absolutely right, because I'm thinking right now just about the many different conversation we had, and I'll share this is like we're all like, man, who was that dude who came on and talked to us, man? Like, who is that guy? And speaking of who is that guy, we forgot to completely do this, right? And
Justin.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Yeah, no, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Sir, what is your Masonic background? What is your Masonic history? Where have you served? What have you done, sir? Yes.
I don't like talking about that. Um, so I've passed in every house in masonry, every single one. So I'm on the women's side and all the men's side. And so past master, served as worship master in 2008, 2009 at New Beginnings Military Lodge number 199. Came in and Joseph C. Thornton, Roar chapter number 59. E.J. Jones, commandery number 5. Came over here, past Vice Illustrious Master, past eminent commander, past excellent high priest, and
Hmm.
now I am currently the grand lecturer for the Prince Hall Grand Lodge. And at the end of this month, I'll be the right eminent grand commander for the Pacific Prince Hall Grand Commandery, Knights Templars.
Mm, mm. Lot of knowledge in that right there, as I sense.
A lot of money spent.
That too. Yeah, you got
A
to
lot
pay
of
them.
money. Yeah,
And then I'm gonna go ahead and put you on the spot again because I got to do it. Is you're a published author?
yeah, yeah. A few books. Working on a fourth book right now, so
Oh,
that'll be a kind of a surprise one.
oh, what are those books, sir?
We have the Ninth Arch, the Broken
Hmm.
Triangle, and Masonry Inside Out.
I can say that I've read all three, and I fully endorse all three of those. And yeah, where can we get where could some of our listeners get these books? Because I got to do it. I
Go
got
on
to do it.
Amazon, man. You can definitely go on there, publish on Amazon, and at a certain point, once we we finish a few more books, we definitely want to go to a different publisher and try to make that a series.
Yeah.
But right now they're published on Amazon. You could
Awesome.
either Google Charles Smith or Raul Randall, and all those books will come up.
Awesome.
So we're definitely, and it's funny. I think writing Masonry Inside Out. Matter of fact, it was Larry Jones as well. He was a third
Hmm.
author in there. And you guys, I think you guys got that book when you got raised.
We sure did, sir. And
Um,
you know what's funny is I bought, when y'all mentioned it, I
mm,
bought the book and then was gifted the book, so I got 2 copies.
and I know we signed a copy.
Yes, sir.
I think Charles and I were having a conversation. Ironically, we were smoking hookah. Charles being Charles, right? He was like, "Oh, I think we should write a book."
Yeah.
I was like, "Get the hell out of here! I'm not writing no damn book." And it just kept going, right? And it kind of turned out it was a joke.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it was a joke. We talk about how masonry, and I never looked for masonry. I didn't look to write books. I was like, I'm not,
Yeah.
no, I'm not that guy. Yeah, sure enough. And now we're on the 4th book.
Man, that's what's up. I'm looking forward to that 4th book, man. And
Yeah.
as soon as I finish this journey, I plan on hopefully giving back to in some form or fashion for sure. Because I think it's speaking of books and and masonry and the ritual and the biblical teachings, is that those who read to understand are, I think, are just better off. It opens your mind, and we have to encourage our brothers and make it fun, right? To continue to read and educate, because even some of the things that we read is not they're not you can't audiobook it, right? It's good old
Mm,
fashioned turn the page, turn the page, and we got to
yeah.
make that fun to encourage brothers to really just open their minds, right? Open their minds and open their hearts to knowledge, and recognize that the history that someone left behind, right?
Mm,
And I think about random stuff, right? I do all the time. To think about someone at some point in time took the time to write this thing down, right? And it has transcended, or not transcended time, but it has gone from generation to generation to generation to generation. And
mm,
to be relevant today as it was back then, I think is absolutely profound. And if we don't learn from, we have an opportunity to learn from others' mistakes and an opportunity to learn from their successes. And there's so much literature out there on anything from biblical teachings to, we'll call it academia and business, and
mm,
so many other things. It's like it's hard to choose, what am I going to invest my time to read, right? And what is worth it. And I think a lot of times is, talking to well informed, well educated, well read brothers. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's key word there's legacy, right?
Hmm.
If we think about a parallel legacy, when you do stuff like that, that's going to be archived in the bowels of history forever, right? History is his story. So his story, or my story, or Charles's story, or whoever's story was now written down somewhere that's archived forever. And so I have 3 sons. And so if any one of those young men decide to be a Mason, long after I'm gone, they can still read. And I've only shared this a couple of times. They can still read those writings and
Hmm.
understand what my mindset was, because in every book that we've written, I've always been consistent about writing the history of whatever degree we're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important. When you're doing stuff like that, there's hundreds and thousands of books on
Yeah.
Freemasonry,
Yeah.
but they don't all deal with the history and give you context,
Yeah.
and give you and they're short reads. They're like 50, 60 pages. They're not, some novels, right? They're just
Yeah.
very short, impactful. Let's get the history. Let's figure out how some things are paralleled. And the most
Yeah.
important thing that we focused on in all these books, and I know me specifically, but us collectively, is we always put point everything back to symbolic laws, so
Yeah.
that people can have that parallel. They understand how this makes sense here, right? And they don't ever feel lost, right? You talk about our seasoned brothers, right? We won't call them older. They're scared to put stuff on paper because we can't be giving out passwords. We can't be giving out this. Well, long when we're all gone, who's going to get that knowledge?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can't take it with us. Just if you think about the burial, and you'll get there, in the grave, everything would be leveled. All ranks would be descended, despaired. The rod and the prince and the staff of the beggar lay side by side. So you're
Mm,
equal in the grave. You're
mm,
done. Like this, you can't take any of this with you. So you have to archive all of this information so that brothers behind us, because if we don't know where we came from, I
yeah,
told Brother Humphreys today, we can't know where we're going.
yeah.
But you have
That's
to write it down.
the progressiveness of society, right?
Yeah.
And being able to learn from our history, and it saddens me to some avail that some brothers really just don't care, and here in the United States, I'll call it that, the education system doesn't really expound upon the black man's history in America. um, and it's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating journey. It's a story. It's a journey that is riddled with resilience, with overcoming so many different challenges,
Yeah.
and it makes me proud to be a black man, right, here in America and here without the world. Because I'll talk later on about my travels and my job and what I've done, where I've been, different countries and whatnot, and my experiences there. But it just continues to resonate with me, man. It's something special, and I'm pretty sure every ethnic group has a similar story or journey or thing that they can that they're most proud of. But to me there's nothing better. There's nothing better, and it's awesome. A lot of people, they emulate us. They emulate it. They emulate the culture. They emulate the talk, the this, the that, the style. And man, it's something to be proud of. And it's something that we should learn ourselves to teach. And I think that Prince Hall Masonry has played a pivotal role in developing Black society in the United States. And I mean, we'll talk about the inception of the Methodist. What is that? The AME. What is it? AME
American.
Church.
Yeah.
American Methodist Episcopal Church, AME. Yeah, and how Masonry played a role in that, because there was a time where your deacons, your pastor, your leader, they were typically a Mason, and I
Mhm.
and I thought that was a fascinating discovery, because it's different. It's different from what you think. Masonry is Masonry, but Prince
Mhm.
Hall Masonry is different, and to me, there's no denying that.
No, I agree. I agree. But you talk about how your preachers and deacons and pastors were Masons. Now it's funny. My mom's a preacher, and
Mm,
she hates Masonry.
mm,
Matter of fact, my dad's a deacon in the church. He's a preacher, and they detest me being a Mason. It's kind of funny because Christmas conversations about religion are pretty interesting
yeah.
at, at our house. So yeah, I just think that you know if we go back to what you were saying as far as the dialogue and what how masonry has shaped that, I guess I have a question then for you is you being an active duty military member,
Mhm.
how has masonry think about where you were as a military member, especially as a commissioned officer before
Yeah.
masonry and after masonry. So where were you
Yeah.
before masonry? How was your thought? What was your thought process? And now after masonry, what is your thought process, especially being active duty Marine?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, but before masonry, I will say it was eyes wide shut, right? Eyes
Mhm.
wide shut, from the sense of I did the thing, I had my goals, I had the things I wanted to achieve. It was I attacked it because of me. But there's always been a part of me that is, as I don't care. I've never leaned on titles, right? I think there's a great facade of titles in the military, and great. And mind you, there's a need for a hierarchy and whatnot, but the humanity of people has always appealed to me. I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to really know why things were the way they were, or are, and that was how I was before masonry. And then I'll say after masonry, once I started really looking at things from a different vantage point, I quickly realized that the not the teachings, but the explanation of things. Now I'm looking at things. Well, why is that marker on the northeast corner, right, of that particular building? Or why do we march in this manner or form? well, why, what was so special about Ton Tavern, or what was so special about, this individual? And that's just one side of it. The other side of it is the people. I learned to meet people where they are and understand that this ride called life is something that is very, it should be, enjoyed, it should be respected, it should be valued. And as we go through this life, through this journey, God puts people in our lives at particular points in time for a reason. And my eyes were open to that, and I was open to receive that. And then I started seeing things. I started seeing brothers really just like, I'm like, hey, there's something different about him, or
Hmm.
there's something different about him. Hey man, like you look familiar. And it isn't that I met you before. It's something in the way you carried yourself, it's something in the way you presented yourself, it's something in the way you said you or what you said that got me thinking, oh, I've heard that before.
Right.
I've heard that. And lo and behold, you start seeing that in the across the military, Masons are everywhere. And some people would have a conspiracy theory to where, Masons are out there taking care of Masons, and they're helping you get promoted and helping you get this, that, and the other. I would say it's absolutely not true. I would say that the expectation of you is greater once your brothers see you for who you are and for what you are. If you are at Mason, that, hey man, like, you shouldn't be doing that, or you should have approached this a little bit differently because of X, Y, Z. You know better. You now know why that happens, and you know how to react to that, and you know what you're supposed to do. And I think that, and I liked your point. Well, I can empathize with the parents, not being understanding of it, because my mom is the same way, right? As far
Hmm.
as masonry, and I'm still reconciling it. I've prayed it, I've fasted on it, and I've talked to God about it. And as soon as I got another story, but I can't share it on the podcast. But I can tell you another story about just things that at that time when I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to do that. That just kind of grabbed me and brought me back. I'm like, man, this is weird, and this is something that's drawing me towards it, and I don't really understand why. And it was, yeah, and my eyes were just open. That's how I was before and after. I hope that kind of answered the question.
It gives perspective, but let's kind of talk about, you were saying a couple things about how your parents basically just discouraged it, just like my parents. And but let's think about it from this perspective. Let's make it spiritual.
Hmm.
Everything happens for a reason. God puts people in our lives for a season, right? The Bible tells us that. So, point here: had you and I never met, would we be doing this podcast for hundreds and thousands of people to hear this message?
No.
No, right? So, again, our parents are people, and
Yeah.
they do things based off of emotion, not always sound facts, whether
Yeah.
that be biblical or just facts in general. So this is all predestined to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't even know how you and I got on the talk of. So I think I said something, and we kind of did the lecture on the San Diego York Education
Yeah.
podcast, and we put that out there, and it went off well. We had this vastly diverse audience from different states, and
Yeah.
we had something. We figured we had something, and then so it was like that was manifested this, and now this will have us invite guests. Like I'll have some lawyers and stuff that we want to line up, and they're all Masons. We definitely, and then when we get Justin will give us a different perspective. We want to interview those guys on that side as well, and get their perspective on Masonry and their thoughts on Prince Hall Masonry and California Masonry, and how the two can interact and how they've interacted. And so we'll
Yeah.
get into some deep conversation with a diverse group. But again, the point here is to not ramble on, is that this would never have happened had we never met. Had you
Yeah.
not become a Mason, or I become a Mason, we never met.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Man,
I
that's
mean,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll you know, a lot of people, well, they won't know this, but man, like, you know, I look at you as my big brother, right? And it was like, man, I was already, you know, pursuing things academically. I was already looking, and like I said, from that first interaction we had, there I
Mhm.
knew that like you were someone I can talk to, I can have conversation, I can converse with, I can really have engaged in thoughtful dialogue with. And from there, I'm like, man, God just put a mentor in my life without me even knowing it, right? Because I'm trying to go that same path in which you took, and I won't go there.
You put me on the spot, so
Yeah,
I'm a reciprocate.
you know. So I was like, man, like this brother is a, you know, is a doctor. He's in the community. He's engaged. He's you know, a spiritual, God fearing man. I was like, man, like tell me. Yeah, like I said, I prayed on it. I fasted on it. I still do to this day. Just for God just to keep giving me wisdom, because I don't know, maybe down the line, something may happen to open my eyes to change. But that's the beauty of this journey, right? That's the beauty of this
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, no, I have some guys that I really look up to as well, and they do the same thing for me, right? To keep me sharp and engaged. You guys all keep me sharp and engaged, even with you on your educational journey. Same thing with Justin. I kind of look to you guys for some strength when I'm a little weak sometimes, because I can't carry the heavy pack all the time, right?
Yeah,
My rough
yeah.
sack, my rough pack and get my ruck gets a little heavy.
Hmm.
Um, so I have to look to other sources. So it's a collective gleaning of energy. I'm really big on energy. Teach a class, and especially an in-person class, first thing I do is do ice-breaking exercises to
Hmm.
assess the energy in the room, right? Because it's
Yeah,
already weird, right?
yeah,
Anytime you meet
yeah,
somebody, it's
yeah.
already weird. It's just so now you
Yeah,
gotta be progressive and you gotta do stuff to break the ice. We just have to assess the energy, and I really am a firm believer that energy is reciprocal, the good or bad. Even at work, I put up pictures of energy vampires, and I tell the guys, right, if you have an energy vampire amongst you, you got to police yourselves. And we have a lot of energy vampires in masonry, and so we
hmm.
have to we have to kind of really hit them with silver bullets, our stakes in their hearts, and we have to kind of just get that squared away, because that's tough, man. That's
Yeah,
tough. Energy vampire. So energy is reciprocal. If you have positive energy, it's infectious, it's contagious. If you have negative energy, it's also
yeah.
infectious and contagious. So
No, you're
we
right.
we just have to attack this project with excitement and enthusiasm, come up with engaging topics. Welcome Justin in, and I'm excited to have him come
Same.
in and give his perspective. Obviously, right, is very opinionated, but opinionated, not overtly ignorant. Has educated, articulated things that he'll bring a perspective again that gives us diversity.
Yeah,
And to
that's
the
that's the
audience, what
key.
we're saying, just if you don't know, you're gonna meet Justin Ortega, white.
Yes, sir.
but
That's
but
my
but
cable. That's my brother right there.
yeah, but Justin is highly intelligent, intuitive. He's a sound mason, and I won't spoil it for you guys. You guys will get a chance to see him and be unapologetic, because it's Trestle Board Talk. I tell our audience that'll be
Yeah,
listening on YouTube, we'll be totally unapologetic.
yeah.
Totally. If you're offended by it, we apologize in advance.
Advance. Yeah. Hey, leave a comment, boss.
Yeah,
we
leave
might
leave a
we might
comment.
read it.
Yeah,
We
leave a
might read
comment.
it.
Please comment. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, be objective. But again, be objective, not subjective. Be objective in your opinions, and that energy will be reciprocated. If your
Yeah.
subjectivity will be read, your subjective comments will be read, but
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll respond because we don't want to reciprocate that negative energy.
Yeah. Facts.
We're going to our first guest next week. As we're winding down here for the day, our first guest next week will be our brother Orlando Franklin.
Sir.
That should be interesting. So, for context, Trey just met him and he worked with him. He had positive things to say about him. He's one of our brothers from our Raw Arts chapter. He actually is dropping his first single and
Mm.
album in 3 days.
Yes, sir.
Um, and so we're going to get into that, and then we're going to get into some other deep bowels of masonry, a little bit of history. I personally will bring a combo about And people are gonna be like, here he goes again with that York right shit. We need to talk about the 25-inch landmarks. So
Okay.
not just the second one, but we need to talk about how they have shaped and reshaped masonry,
Yeah.
and how they've been violated. And again, we spoke about it earlier that a lot of brothers have been in masonry 40, 50 years, but they've
Hmm.
never done anything but be in the what they say, blue house or symbolic lodge. So how can you really be a master mason? So we're gonna kind of get into that next Friday, Friday the 13th, and we'll get into the significance of Friday the 13th and why we chose that day. For my Knights Templars out there, you know why we chose Friday the 13th. And
Well, I
then
don't know yet.
you'll know, we'll find out. And then we'll get a chance to talk about the upcoming book, 40 Miles,
Okay.
because that's gonna lead into the Friday the 13th conversation, so to speak.
Awesome. I'm gonna put us down for discovering and working through those landmarks. I'm gonna go ahead and it's gonna force me to hit the books, right? To come here to be able to have a dialogue with the giant in masonry for sure. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing my brother Orlando back online. Phenomenal human being, very just genuine. Yeah, love him. I love working with him. It's a treat to have him on. I'm looking forward to it. So hey,
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's gonna be like I said, really, 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 really looking forward to it. But again, next week's talk will be dealing with Orlando and how he's dealing with
okay,
being in the music industry and his descent or ascent as a mason, as a master mason, and how he's going to balance the two out. So it's going to be interesting to hear what he says about that. So we'll get into some stuff offline. I'll give him some questions and things of that nature. But we're really going to dive into the foundation of masonry. That's a 25 ancient landmark. So we're really going to get into maybe not all of them, but we'll go through quite a bit of them and what they mean
yeah,
today and how we can really kind of bring that synergy back because
yeah,
we don't teach the ancient landmarks because we talked about that cornerstone, right? And I think the
mhm,
25 ancient landmarks are the cornerstone of Freemasonry that we just don't have honest discussion about.
yeah. I'm looking forward to unpacking it. But we might have to break that down into a couple sessions, boss.
I think we will. 25 of them. I think we can go episodes. This is a pilot episode, pilot
Yeah.
test episode. So episodes 1 and 2 will probably really just be tackling the 25 ancient landmarks to really
Okay.
break those down. I'll have some highlights and some notes and some, kind of go through some stuff. And not only will I get into, I'll leave my personal opinion out of it and I'll just
Mhm.
base it on facts. And so again, we'll see. We'll
Very
see.
well.
But now, man, let's hit Justin up.
Yes, sir.
Let's get this thing started. We'll talk offline about another game plan, another kind of run through. But before next week, and then looking forward to talking to Brother Franklin next week. But again, to the audience out there, like, subscribe, share. Like,
Yeah.
subscribe, share. Looking forward to this being a long journey. Um, Looking forward to actually get to episode 100.
Yeah. Let's claim it. Let's claim it. Let's claim it.
I was saying it right now. I was upstairs thinking about that earlier. I was like, yeah, it's episode 1. Let's get to episode 100. The hell with that.
But this is one of the hardest steps, right? Is just getting it set it up and getting it going, right? And having a
Yeah.
conversation. And I think it's really good. I think it's really good. I'm enjoying this. It feels right. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think let's definitely pull the lodge into it, pull
Mhm.
all the YouTube subscribers into it. Let's get everybody engaged. Yeah, man. Let's get it. Next
All
Friday the
right.
13th, it'll be interesting. A lot of good conversation about what Friday the 13th, not a bad thing. Talk about the book, talk about Orlando. It'll be fun. Look
Yeah.
forward to it.
Same,
Uh,
same.
all right, man. Well, be cool.
Yes, sir.
Next week, Trestle Board Talks, man. Hey, I'm Raul. That's Trey. We out, man. You got any
We
last
out. We
words for
out.
you? You got any?
Hey, thanks for sticking around and listening. Hopefully you got something out of this. You learned something. And you're excited about going on this journey with us. So yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, yes, sir. We'll get this edited and published on YouTube, man. And look for the link and let's start sharing it. Let's get people excited about it, man. Trestle Board Talks out, man. See you
We
next
out.
week, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, later.